You are welcome here, just the way you are. No more hiding tears, no more covering scars. You are welcome, holy welcome. You are welcome here, just the way you want to be. Bring your deepest hopes and all your wildest dreams. You are welcome, holy welcome, holy welcome. You are welcome here, just the way you are. No more hiding tears, no more covering scars. You are welcome, holy welcome. You are welcome here, just the There's something in the air, the dream of life in love. With minds at rest in prayer, sparking joy we're in awe. No matter where your path has been or time will somehow flies, like souls will come home again. True friendship ever thrives. Is this where the magic happens? Can you feel the hearts revealed right now in you and me? The secret is wherever we are. There's something in a smile that can turn a day around. Moments so worthwhile when we find common ground. No matter what the day might bring, right here we can align, knowing that we will be seen as perfect, whole, divine. This is where the magic happens. Let's feel all the hearts come close to me and me to you. The secret is wherever we are. So meet me where the magic happens, feeling all the hearts ignited now in you and me. The secret is wherever, the secret is whenever, the secret is together we are.
Good morning. Welcome to CSL St. George. I hope you all love that slideshow of all of our peeps. It just makes my morning. So anyway, welcome. We're very, very glad you're here for our Sunday service. So who are we at CSL? Well, we are an open, loving, and inclusive community that supports thinking creatively and living a deeply spiritual life. So I'm going to introduce our service team today. My name is Gwen Hadley. I'll be hosting. I'm also a member of the Core Council. We have practitioner Bill Smith behind the scenes, teching, making everything happen beautifully. Oh, and welcome back, Shay Barlow. She's back to do our music for us. We sorely, sorely missed her. Glad to see her smiling face. Our invocation and reading will be provided by our newest practitioner, Sue Fulmer. And Sue, I'm going to keep saying you're new until we get another practitioner, I guess. You're always going to be the new kid. And then finally, our own senior minister, Reverend Joe Kovach. So that's the lineup. And now I'd like to introduce Shay Barlow, Faith and No. Shay, good morning. Oops, you're muted. We want to hear you.
That would help.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Glad to be here. So we're going to go ahead and move into just a little bit of meditative space. I'm going to run through this song, and then Sue is going to come in and she's going to share an invocation. And then Bill's going to pop the lyrics on screen so that you can sing along after the invocation. I welcome each day. I trust the divine. Choose which path to take, which thoughts to align, to find peace so sweet, the truth of my soul. It's all that I need. I have faith and know. I lead with my heart. I breathe and expand and make room for God to better my plans, the good I desire awaits in the flow, each moment a gift. I have faith and know.
We gather together in prayer. I feel the presence and I gather that loving presence around me, knowing that it is always present. And I align myself with that warm feeling, that confident, always there, loving feeling. And I know that I am a magnificent creation of that presence, that spirit, Mother, Father, God, as is all creation, as are all of our beloveds here at CSL St. George. And we unite together, and when we meet and unite together, we magnify the power and the energy of the presence of the loving God and of the holiness of our individual spirits. I am grateful today to be part of this wonderful group of loving family called Centers for Spiritual Living St. George. And at the time of year where families gather together, I know that we are family, whether we have other families surrounding us this week, just keeping in mind that the love of this CSL family is always close and caring. I know that this meeting proceeds in order and clarity, that the internet miracle will go out and deliver this message to those who are seeking. There's a beautiful philosophy to be shared, and our Reverend Joe will give that to us today in perfect harmony with the spirit of our philosophy and the knowledge and truth of the message of God. Grateful for the music, grateful for the presence of our beloveds here with us, knowing that as we meet online, there is still that loving energy reaching out from one another, and I feel the hugs, I give the love, and together we say, and so it is.
So it is. Beautiful, Sue. I welcome each day. I trust the divine. Choose which path to take, which thoughts to align, to find peace so sweet, the truth of my soul. It's all that I need. I have faith and know, to find peace so sweet, the truth of my soul. It's all that I need. I have faith and know. I lead with my heart. I breathe and expand and make room for God to better my plans. The good I desire awaits in the flow. Each moment a gift. I have faith and know the good I desire awaits in the flow. Each moment a gift. I have faith and know. Now I'm going to welcome Gwen back to do our sacred reading today. I mean, not Gwen, excuse me, Sue. Lovely practitioner Sue will do our sacred reading.
Thank you. Love having you with us, Shay. Welcome back.
Thank you.
I'd like to take my reading this morning from the Science of Mind, last month's Science of Mind, one of my favorite articles in each month. It's Murphy, the Human Whisperer. And the byline for this article, it says, Murphy, the Human Whisperer, watches over the his human Reverend Dr. Bob Lucken when he isn't working on his column. This is expressed so sweetly in the words of his cute little dog. And he speaks about pause with perspective. Inside every creature, there's a place others can't see. It's a private place where dreams and hopes take root, where love grows strong, and where the lost is followed by found. It's a private place. It's a place of love and kindness. It's a place where heart songs are sung out loud. You've heard them late at night and early in the morning. Songs carried gently by the breeze and hidden beneath the wings of hummingbirds and eagles. I saw a little hummingbird this morning eating from my feeder, and the wind was so strong it knocked it right off of the hummingbird feeder. And when it settled down a little bit, it came back to feed. He continues, it is a place that heals all wounds. It's where life's renewed and where every flower blooms. Every creature is born knowing of this place. It's the place we come from and the place we will return to. I want you to know that I'm connected to this place. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and allow yourself to remember. I'm here with you to help you remember. Animals are attuned to the divine. They love from a place of pure kindness and unconditional love and care. They share this great wisdom and comfort with humans when we forget our true nature. My Stormy is a little mini golden doodle, and she's an answer to prayer. I became alone and single after giving up on a relationship and replacing it with a dog. And she has been my constant companion and just my source of love. She is a constant source of love for me. So, if you don't have a pet at home, which I went many years without a pet, I was watching the other day on Facebook, Dogs and Babies. And it was so joyful to see those dogs cuddling up with babies and the reaction of the baby to the animals. This is one way to find sacred in the mundane and profane. Our world is just so confusing and active with things going on, but we can focus in on that which brings us peace and love and good. And I'm grateful for my little part of my family, Stormy. And when I feel alone, she's just right here next to me. And so I hope each of you have the companionship of something that you can reach out and feel love from and give love to. So have a wonderful Thanksgiving week, and I love you. Namaste.
Beautiful. Amen to that. Thank you so much, Sue. So this month, Joe's been looking at the mundane, the sacred, and the profane. Today, he's looking specifically at the profane. In her book, More, A Journey to the Mystical Union Through the Sacred and the Profane, Mariah Mackenzie wrote, "Have you ever wanted more? Not more stuff or success or fame, but more intimacy, more connection, more mystery, more awe. Oftentimes, we find ourselves on the search for more, coming across restrictions and taboos. And sex is certainly one of those circumstances. Deepak Chopra wrote this: despite what you've been conditioned to believe, sexual desire is sacred and virtuous. When you and your beloved merge physically and emotionally, you go beyond the boundaries of the ego and experience timelessness, naturalness, playfulness, and defenselessness." This is a song by Radney Foster that I believe captures that same sentiment really beautiful. This is called Raining on Sunday. It ticks just like a Timex, never lets up on you. You said life was easy, the job is never through. It'll run us till we're ragged, it'll harden our hearts. Love could use a day of rest before we both start falling apart. Pray that it's raining on Sunday, storming like crazy. We'll hide under the covers all afternoon. Baby, whatever comes Monday can take care of itself, 'cause we got better things that we can do when it's raining on Sunday. Your love is like religion, a cross in Mexico. Your kiss is like the innocence of a prayer nailed to the door. Oh, surrender is much sweeter when we both let go. Let the water wash our bodies clean and love wash our souls. Pray that it's raining on Sunday, storming like crazy. We'll hide under the covers all afternoon. Baby, whatever comes Monday can take care of itself, 'cause we got better things that we can do. It's raining on Sunday. Pray that it's raining on Sunday, storming like crazy. We'll hide under the covers all afternoon. Baby, whatever comes Monday will take care of itself, 'cause we got better things that we can do when it's raining on Sunday. Raining on Sunday. Okay, Gwen, back to you.
Beautiful, Shay. What an aptly correct song, because an hour ago I'm in Washington in the fields. It was storming like crazy.
Here too. I know.
So thank you very much, Shay.
Thanks, Gwen.
So now we're going to bring up Reverend Joe in just a couple of seconds. So we continue with our theme, Living Out Loud. And today's talk, be careful, Reverend Joe, the profane. Good morning.
See? I wasn't sure they were going to let me on because of that introduction, but thank you, Gwen. Glad you're safe. Thank you. Appreciate the hospitality. Good morning, everyone. And how good is it to have Shay back playing our music? I mean, Alan's wonderful, and it's nice for a change, gives him a break. So hi, Alan. Hope you're home, just resting, having a great morning. And Shay, that was wonderful. Great song, too. A lot came up just in my mind as you sang those words. And so I do want to make an announcement. Facebook is having some issues. So anyone, I don't know if you're going to hear this anyway, but just want to let you know there's stuff beyond our control. So we're trying to get that feed up as soon as possible. And also, I want to share that yesterday I was in town, your town, St. George. We had our final class of the Foundations of Science of Mind. And during that class, we gathered in person. We've been meeting online for the past 9 weeks. And we got to share in person the projects, the culmination of that 10-week course. And it was amazing. I'll be honest with you. It just really makes my heart desire to be there more full time. So I don't have to drive 2 hours to go to a class, but it was absolutely just, again, what came out of our students, some brand new to the class, some brand new to just still seeking to find out what Science of Mind is, and some who've taken the course several times. And every time we do something, it's anew if we allow it to be. And so we are going to have in some future services, our students share their experience of taking the class, because I think that's incredibly important. Testimonial of how new thought, science of mind, changing your thoughts changes your life truly. So good morning, wherever you are. It's windy here too, as I sit here at my desk in my office in North Las Vegas. It is blowing up a storm and the windows are knocking. So I hope wherever you are, you're safe and you're doing well. And we're going to move on with this idea of the profane. And I played with many ideas of how to get the point across here. So I think we'll be child safe, but I'm not going to make any promises. And so we're talking about the profane, and it's important just to kind of have an idea of, well, let's go back for a minute. So this whole month, we're talking about the mundane, which we've covered, which is kind of the ordinary, everyday things. We've talked about the sacred, which is, that which we consider holy, and now the profane. And it's, by now, if you've been following, that it's still all different aspects of looking at the one, the wholeness of that which we call life in God. And so this week, we're going to talk about the profane and this idea that, look, we've been designed as humans for connection, right? And the natural design of how we interact with our bodies is often called profane, whether it's words that we use or behaviors that we become active in. Some people will label things profane. And this month, we're being invited to see the experience of all life. And this week, we're looking at the profane. So Ernest Holmes, we can start out grounding in science of mind. So he says, to suppose that the creative intelligence of the universe would create man in bondage and leave him bound would be to dishonor the creative power which we call God. To suppose that God could make man as an individual without leaving him or her to discover herself, would be to suppose an impossibility. Individuality must be spontaneous. It can never be automatic. Now, why are we talking about this? Well, I thought we were going to talk about the profane, because it grounds us in this idea that it's all God. B, if it's all God, this is a creative intelligence that is creating. Therefore, it is all good. It all comes from one direct source. Whatever you choose to call it, the mind of God, we are within the body of God, life, source, with all love. I don't care what you call it. We're all talking about the same thing from an individualized perspective. And I want to honor that, right? To recognize that it's, in a sense, it's all given to us right here, right now. We have everything we need to live a free, full, expanded life, or anything else that we choose instead of that. He makes it clear, Ernest Holmes, that in this exploration of life and our bodies, and humanity, it's all a holy experience. And we draw down our own individual understanding of what this creative power intelligence is. And if we identify something as profane in a negative way, in essence, it's bad, and therefore we want it outside and gone, there's nothing outside of God. Nothing. It is all God. It is all how we choose to experience. Now, I'm not going to say that there are things that we would not want to experience, pain, trauma, etc. But we're talking about, at the same time, the ability to even transform that, something that we can just absolutely, what's a good word? Abhor at. And then recognize it still as an experience of godliness, because it has to be. Again, that's our option. And that's what we're trying to do here. Look at everything from a unique perspective, and the profane is one perspective. What does it mean to be profane? Is it, again, the use of curse words? Is it expressing raw sexuality, or believing in crazy, unconditional ideas about God or life itself? And the word profane, believe it or not, it sounds like, profane or profanity, right? That's where the word comes from. It simply means that which is associated with something that's secular, or therefore not religious. And it's usually considered the opposite of what we would call sacred. So that's why, in essence, we talked about the sacred last week. We're kind of talking about what the opposite pole, going back to last month's idea of paradoxes and duality. And so as we expand our thinking, we understand that God is present in every experience, including what we define individually as the profane. So in science of mind, okay, we label everything as creative. We label everything as sacred, as holy, as mundane. It depends on where you're standing. And who are we to judge this divine creativity? This is everything that we experience is an expression of spirit itself, unfolding into what we look at. And what we look at is determined by us. So the profane invites us, this idea of the profane invites us to dive deeper into our understanding, therefore, of oneness. Like, how can this profane thing that I label be part of all that is? How can it be sat next to the word love or joy when I consider it something I can't even look at or don't want to think about? The concept of profanity changes from culture to culture, from community to community, to worldly, depending on where you are. For example, a thumbs up is a positive sign in American culture. Hey, good job. But it's also in Middle Eastern countries, it's the equivalent to the middle finger, right? Which is not considered so happy joyful, good here in the United States. So it does depend on not just when we talk about our individualized view, even our community view, and we think of our community as one, it changes. Jen Sincero says, most people are living in an illusion based on someone else's beliefs. Now, why do I put that as a second quote today? Because that's all important. What we define as sacred, as mundane, as profane, in essence, we've learned from someone else. Most of us have not understood what is profane. I'm going to keep using that word. From just our own experience. Someone else has gone through something where, oh my gosh, that's blasphemy. And then we go, oh, okay, that's blasphemy. And then so something that looks like that, oh, that must be blasphemy too. That blasphemy is horrible. That's bad. We don't want that. So we cast it out. That's profane. And we don't want to talk about those things. And as we're living our lives, it's important to understand that it's all important to us. If it comes through us, that means we've invited it. If it comes through us, that means it's divine and it's holy. It depends on how we're looking at it. It doesn't, again, mean that we're making certain actions good in the sense of that we want to have them, right? Like child abuse, for example. That's not something that we would say, oh, yes, it's beautiful. I'm so happy it's there because I can learn it and learn more about God. That's not what we're saying here. Be very clear about that. And yet we're looking at things on what have we really decided what is good for us? What is something that we want to, what is life affirming for ourselves and others? Another example of this would be with regards to what is profane culturally. In America, it's very common, especially in Las Vegas, that you tip for services that have been rendered to you. And yet in Japan, that would be absolutely considered insulting. So, and then just who I'm trying to remember who brought up earlier. I want to say it was Shay, I believe, that mentioned the idea of sexuality. And that's all over the board, depending even within the United States of what is acceptable, what is profane. And so again, let's dive deep. Let's take a look at what this means and how can we even look at what is something that it truly is unwanted in our experience, and yet as a part of something that is sacred, something that we can go, okay, this is God showing up too. Robert Ingersoll says, I am not much given to profanity, but when I am aggravated and vexed in spirit, I declare to you that it comes as such a relief to me, such a solace to my troubled soul, and brings me such heavenly peace to every now and then allow a word or phrase to escape my lips, which can serve me no other earthly purpose, seemingly, other than to render emphatic my otherwise mildly expressed ideas. Okay, so that's a fancy way. What's an easier way of saying it? Here's another way. Why use profanity in real life and writing? She says, because sometimes, darn it, just doesn't cut it. That's Jacqueline Patrick's, right? So in other words, there is power in words. Now, the power that we give it, not the power that other people say it has. Going back to our first quote. How did we choose something is right or wrong for ourselves? And why is it that we tend to rebel against something that someone else says is wrong? Because we feel it's right and they say it's wrong, and we decide. And if you think about, let me put it for me. I know that I started cursing simply out of habit because those around me were cursing, my friends and so forth that I was hanging out with. But at the same time, it was right. At the time, it was bad. It was rebellious. I was, that was cool and confident to be able to curse and so forth. That was my expression of growing up. Now, it's a completely different thing to me. And yet I agree. There are certain words that when used are a full release. We give words any power that they have. And there are some words that are put on a pedestal. And then there are other ones that we shouldn't say in the midst of anyone. And again, we explore language even to this day. I don't care how old you are, how young you are, where are you in your life, right? We look at words and the feelings that we give them, just like when we say an affirmation, we talk about the intent and the expression through that. There is a book called, and I'm going to choose here not to say the word, but I'll just say F it therapy. And it's based off the idea that so many people, particularly in the United States, put so much power into that word. And it's a pretty powerful little book because at certain times, if you choose, now you don't have to use a cuss word to release pent up expression and so forth. It's just some ways that people choose to. And let's not judge against them, because as we judge, we're judging ourselves. But yet, hey, this is part of the human nature. We're all living on this rock together, and decisions have to be made. So let's talk about marijuana. Is that a harmful drug that's abused, or is it a medical plant that can serve to help have an alternative prescription or medication? Okay, there's a big one. Gun control. Is it something that we should have guns so we can go out and freely hunt and be a part of nature? Or is it just all bad because we can't trust ourselves and others? So culturally, we see the profane, again, as words and practices that defy the norm. What's normal? What's accepted by most? And yet, human treatment of each other, which you would think would be at the top of that list, is one of the worst profane things that happens daily. We don't treat each other often with love and respect, courtesy, compassion, and empathy. Now, depending on if you choose to watch the news and what news you watch, that would be profane as well, depending on what you're shown every day as real. Going back to how are we individually choosing what we see is bad? If it's thrown in our face 24/7, bad, just like when I was hanging out with my friends. And now I didn't start out saying I wanted to cuss, but everybody started saying certain words around me. And I was very determined not to cuss. I was a young Catholic boy. And if I would cuss, I would say 10 Our Fathers is in a sense, how would I say that? Consequence. And yet after a while, and after I had to say 200 a day, it wasn't working out. So I just kind of went with it. Governments can be profane depending on how you look at them. Are they entities that are taking care of their people and have their best interests in mind? Or is it just a bunch of rich guys taking advantage and gaining all the power that they can over the weak-minded or those that don't have power, that are not awake to their own power? Let me put it that way. And then there's going into religion. And there's religious organizations that can be seen as profane depending on their teachings and rituals. Or can we look at it as another way of expressing that which we call God? Even the word God is profane to some people. They don't like to hear it anymore. It's turned from something positive, and now it's a trigger because of a certain past experience. And none of this is wrong. Let me be said. I am not saying anything in judgment. We get to determine that. So if, for example, the word God is offensive, find one that works for you. If the word profane is offensive, find one that works for you. Let's stop living a to-me life and blaming everybody for the way we feel. And let's start taking some responsibility and deciding, because that's the power of choice. That is a sacred power if there is ever one. We get to decide what shows up in our life, and we get to decide how we're going to look at it. And the Science of Mind Nurse Home says all of life is bound together by one common law. What law? The law of love. And love is the self-givingness of spirit. Love that word. That word came up actually yesterday in our last class. Love is the self-givingness of spirit of God to itself through our experience. So how much do we want to experience the self-givingness of spirit? Well, let's decide. Let's choose right here and now. So how can we become more accepting of words and practices that have been historically labeled profane. How can we shift our focus to see the spiritual truth of everything, in everything, again, including what is labeled profane? Now, I missed one example I want to throw in there. It's a big topic. It's interesting. We talk about with regards to animal cruelty, and we shouldn't be eating meat. Right. And many people are on board with that. And if that's you, wonderful. You're allowed to do what you want. And that's fine. Now, at the same time, I'm going to ask for those people that choose to not eat meat, are you eating plants? Because plant has as much life in it, life force, as an animal. And there's even proof now that plants have their own consciousness. They heal themselves. It's not just a program. They have life. They choose and so forth. So just something to kind of tickle your fancy, kind of be the thorn a little bit and go, oh, I don't know if I like that, and then we get set in our biased ways of this is how it is for me. Great. Bless you for choosing your way. When we're not here to be all carbon copies of one type of spiritual human being. We're here to live a cacophony, a smorgasbord, a buffet of life. Reverend Scott Aubrey says, a little bit long, so I'll just hear me out here. He says, when I was a child, I remember the commandment that really made an impression was the third one. Don't take the name of the Lord God in vain. He's talking about Christianity in the Bible. I thought that was straightforward. It meant don't cuss. I profess that I broke that commandment a few times. Well, actually, I sort of fell short on a couple of other commandments as well. But when I grew up and got into metaphysics, I learned that that commandment, number 3, has nothing to do with cussing. That wasn't its original meaning. The Holy Commandment was not about being frivolous with the name of the divine, because that name touches everything in life, everything in your life. So I think it's just now he's a reverend, and through his experience, he took a look at even some of the most sacred books in different ways. The Bible is one of them. How do we choose to look at it? And are we simply saying something in the Bible means this because somebody else told me that, or I read it in one place or whatnot? Now we get to decide, right? We get to decide. Are you seeing how, again, our topic this month plays directly with the idea, again, last month of paradox, right? This is the right way, this is the wrong way or other way, causing a sense of separation. So if I label something as profane, that's okay. We can label it. Can we accept it still as an expression, an idea, a word that is spiritual, that is spirit in action, that is shown up as an expression of love itself? We may not want to necessarily use part of that in our life, but we don't push against. What do we know against the idea of law of attraction? What we push against only stays in our focus, therefore stays in our reality and our experience. The idea here is if I don't like a word, let me choose the other word and let the other word go. If I don't like a way that I'm experiencing life, okay, and I can call it profane, I don't like that the way it feels, okay, what would you rather experience, right? Because we have this need to be and feel right, and often we do that, unfortunately, by having to make somebody else wrong. It's like we must have a constant thing out there to which we're okay with, to kind of hang with, and at the same time say, well, I'm not with that point of view, I'm over here. They're the profane ones. They use those words, not me. Now, if we can say that in essence of love, those loving individuals, they use certain language, like comedians, right? There are comedians that don't cuss at all. And that's great. And that's maybe what you prefer. And then there are comedians that cuss a whole lot and say some harsh things. I will label it as harsh for me. And that's okay too. Now, I don't have to spend my whole day talking about those ones that upset me, and then I forget the stuff that really made me laugh. Or can I accept it all as having its place? So again, we're being invited with regards to taking a look at the profane in essence, to allow ourselves or others to color outside of the lines of what we consider spiritual, acceptable. For example, there's on our communications between all CSL ministers, there's a lot of people that have a lot of ideas of how to do Sunday service differently, including not having it on Sunday. Would that be profane? What about there are some that have DJs that actually play music for their Sunday morning service? Okay. And I'm going to really get under some people's. What about having a fundraiser as like a burlesque show? Like is that offensive? Is that profane? And I'm going to bring up topics because these are some real things happening. It's not just to poke the angry bear. Okay. Well, if we're able to shake off, I don't necessarily shake off, but take an honest look at some old ideas or some new ideas from the point of it is all spiritual, and is there room in it for my experience? Your experience. How are you living life these days? Because there's a lot of opportunity to look and label things profane, and right. And that's all right. Again, we're not making that wrong. It's an experience. Yet, how can we use that to better our lives? Maybe there's a call for us to take action. Maybe there's a cause to take some action for some self-care or step out and support others. But if we just label something as if and push it away, we don't get the full, or we pass up on an opportunity to have a deeper experience with that. Pam Grout says, judge not means more than refraining from judging others. It also means keeping your consciousness open. Now, and this is from the book Think and Grow Rich, which is a play off the word Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And she's all about gratitude and thankfulness and recognizing, okay, can I use this thing that is abrasive to me as something that can then enrich my life? And there are many examples of how that works in reality. You see, many of our spiritual centers choose to host events and activities that appeal to all people from walks of life. And that's their decision. They feel inspired to step out of the traditional or spiritual way or comfort zones and invite people into their centers to express different ways of thinking and being. Those who are, in a sense, already embracing a profane life are inviting others to express theirs. Now, I want to go on and say, like, this is a great idea if it's coming from the heart and not ego. So what I do want to say is our leadership of Centers for Spiritual Living St. George, we've created actually a brand new purpose, vision, and mission, which we'll be unveiling soon. And so what I'm going to say about the idea of inviting all this newness is you got to know who you are first. And it's as true for a center as it is true for us. Do we have a sacred purpose for ourselves, which then is our guideline to the direction that we're going to be moving, to the experiences that we want to show up in our world, etc. And therefore, where our spiritual inclination in intuition leads us to, that co-creates our reality. So in other words, if we're just doing it and haphazardly and out of, and I won't say that others are doing this, but if I just go, hey, if we invite all these people in, you know what, there's a lot of people in that group and maybe they can come here and then we'll make more money off them. Okay, that's not what I'm talking about in this way. But I have been part of a center that invited in a member of the local, why am I forgetting, mosque, and had them speak. And it was very interesting. And it was an interesting experience. And I'm glad I had it. And it opened a lot of our eyes to some judgments and biases that we had. Now, it doesn't mean I'm going to run out and convert to Islam or Judaism or another religion. But it's okay to hold somebody else's knowledge. And I'm trying to remember the quote or who said it. And it was something like an educated person is one who can entertain someone else's idea I'm not forget, like without attaching to it or something like that. In other words, it's okay to hear, to know what's going on. It doesn't mean you have to say yes to it. I had an experience with regards to something profane, which was fighting, physical fighting. Is that a barbaric sport? Is it barbaric, or is it a sport of disciplined athletes, depending on how you look at it? So I've probably mentioned before, growing up, that I was picked on quite a bit. And at one point, I tried to do everything to please everybody, including those that were making fun of me and making me feel bad. And at some point, I choose, to me, fighting was wrong. It was bad. We weren't going to hurt people. There were better ways to handle things. And this was as a young child. And then particularly in middle school, where it got probably the worst for me. At one point, I did choose to fight. And in the moment, when I decided that, it felt empowering. It felt good. And in essence, led in that moment to where I wanted to be. And then it didn't really quick. I had a fight, my first fight in school. And by the time I got to lunch that next, like we were in between passing periods, this is a true story. I literally sat down after I was all like, amped up to have my lunch. And the biggest kid in my class came up to me and said, so you think you're hot crap now? Right. So it wasn't my intention to put myself on the map in that way. But now I'm trying to take care of myself. I offended him. So my actions were profane to him, which is not something I even thought of. And I let it be known that, no, that's my beef is not with you. And then more interesting is the next day. So we both got some in-house suspension for our activities. And the gentleman who I've been nicely asking to leave me alone for weeks and months brought me in a magazine to share, and then asked me if he wanted to share his lunch. And I was mad in that moment because I said, why? I asked him, why couldn't we do this before? This is all I ever wanted before. We had a good talk back then, and that changed my life at that point. And so that's my experience, right? But it's real for me. And it was a good example for me to look back at that and go, oh, there was something I looked at as profane, and then something I looked at as positive of having to change my life. And then somebody else looked at that as profane. And then I looked at that as profane again. So this is an ongoing evolution within our own lives. Neil Donald Walsh, amazing author of Conversation with God's series, he says, it has been said that if you don't see God in the profane and the profound, you're missing half the story. That is a great truth. God is in the sadness and the laughter, in the bitter and the sweet. There is a divine purpose behind everything, and therefore a divine presence in everything. Right? Flash alert. Spirit is all there is. Again, if we damn something outside of God, we cause separation. We cause pain and anger and loneliness, etc., within ourselves. We do this. And cause and effect is a law of its own, will have its way. How? Through our circumstances that show up. So if we say, I don't like this, I don't like this, I don't like this, and the more we focus on it, the more it's going to show up in our lives. And just to bring that home, Ernest Holmes says, spirit is all life, truth, love, being, what? Cause and effect, both. God isn't just the cause, right? God isn't just the thought of the new plant, of the tree. God is the process of the tree becoming, and God is the tree. Said in a kind of another direct way, Ramon Panikar, he says, there is no sacred or profane. In fact, there is nothing that is not sacred, since all of reality is interrelated. There's nothing separate. So if we label one thing one way, then it's got to all be that. And what we know is that which we call God is life affirming. It's never going to do anything to take away less than of itself, even if it could, but it can't, because it's always in its fullness. So again, two seemingly opposite poles, views of wholeness of what is, again, mundane, sacred, and profane. So as we look at the annual theme of living out loud, right? How I invite you to think about how you can explore how you define what is profane, and therefore, how are you going to live out loud? You know, the discussions we have on this topic in our spiritual centers allow for us to expand our way of thinking and create more inclusivity, right? Okay, it's all part of the whole, and I get to experience this part of it. Else. There's another way I wanted to say that. I'm trying to let it come back to me. So looking at the way we do these, again, sacred, profane, and mundane, it also looks at our own biases, you know, and that assists us in growing and recognizing others. Science of Mind invites us to see ourselves as perfect regardless of our own cultural beliefs or others, or how people perceive us. And that is usually our biggest obstacle. We become defensive because we think we know how other people think about us. And even if they do express it, we take what they're saying to us as all truth. And then we get defensive. We feel the need to defend ourselves. If we come from a perspective of wholeness, of oneness, okay, we don't have to do that. We're not going to defend ourselves against ourselves, in essence, when we are acting in accordance with recognizing wholeness. So what I do ask is that we do take an honest look at ourselves about how we're living and how we're judging and how we're labeling. Okay, we have an opportunity to put what we've learned into practice. How can we do that? Well, let's this week, little homework here, little home practice, a couple questions. Just how can we see the sacred in the profane? Okay, take a look at something, turn on the news for heaven's sakes. Okay, and we may not agree with something, but can we see it maybe like those people believe it's true? Everybody's doing something for a reason, for a purpose, and maybe quote unquote selfish. But then again, if you think about it, everything we do is selfish. And I don't mean that in a negative way. Selfish with a capital S. So if we do things from a sacred place of seeing ourselves as spiritual beings, that's going to be different as if I'm a victim and I'm trying to just keep my head above water. Hey, wherever we are on that path, it's okay. We accept you here at CSL St. George. That is what this is all about. And this is why education is so important. But I don't want to pass over the second question is about, so the first question, how can we see the sacred in the profane? Next, how can we reframe our understanding of what it means to be profane? So literally kind of find something and then diagnose it. Go a little deeper. Go a little deeper today, this week. It is all good. It is all love, even in the profane. And I didn't cuss once. I don't think I did. Maybe I should. The F word, fun, fabulous. Was that right? I think so. So let's go to our affirmation. I'm going to say it once. I'm going to ask us to say it together. So I am a holy being. I see all of life as the divine. All right. So energy behind the words matters. On the count of 3, 1, 2, 3. I am a holy being. I see all of life as the divine. So let us go into prayer and just know the mundane, the sacred, the profane. It's all here right now. And it is truly all good because God is all there is. Life is all there is. Source, the one creative source, this infinite intelligence is creating this life for us now. And I know that each of us is choosing from our best and highest good. And yet we are also open at the top, open, willing, courageous to look at life from a different point of view. And we can still say no to it with love, with compassion, with empathy, and bless and be on our way. No fuss, no fighting, no separation. We are whole. We are one. We are that Christed consciousness being expressed in everyday life. That is what the kingdom of God is. Humanity recognizing their divine power and living through consciousness of love. And Ernest Holmes would call it love and law. In other words, our thoughts become things. And so I am knowing that everyone that is hearing our voice, and I say our voice collectively, from this place of love, is receiving the perfect and highest blessings in their life in this moment. If it's clarity they need, it becomes clear. If there is pain, then there is peace. If there is a feeling of loneliness, of separation, then the feeling and the truth of wholeness is here now. This is why we gather. This is why we are living life, to determine the depths of which we will allow that which we call God's love into our life. And we are perfect just the way we are. I know that because there's nothing that is not perfect. It is all God, including you, including I, including this message, including that which we choose to do immediately after service today. Blessing it all in co-creative good. We affirm this together by saying, and so it is. Amen. Namaste.
Joe, I love that you mentioned different ways of thinking and being can be fearful. But I think it's so important shining the light and taking a really close look at whatever that is so important for our spiritual growth. And lastly, when you said the F word, the fun word, it perked me right up. Thank you so much, Joe.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Wonderful message. So we have some announcements, as always. Bill's going to bring them right up. So our community care circle continues. Please reach out. The phone number's on the screen. If you need to speak with someone, we can send a card to a loved one, whatever we can do to connect with you. Prayer requests, our practitioners are always willing and happy to pray with you, for you, whatever your needs might be. Our next in-person service coming up already, December the 10th. We look forward to you coming and joining us. And of course, our Zoom conversation takes place every Sunday after service at noon. So you can see on the newsletter and on the website that link to join us. So abundant prosperity. We are so grateful to have you help us bring this service every single Sunday, and in the long term, bringing us together in person with our own facility. So there are many ways that you can help. You can give with Zelle, which is a bank-to-bank transfer system. You can give online. We have PayPal online. We have our QR code. Give by mail, many, many ways, but we are so grateful in whichever way you choose to give. So upcoming Sundays, oh my gosh, our own Bill Smith, Practitioner Smith, will be giving our talk next week. And then following on the 3rd of December, we'll have Reverend Joe back in the house. So Bill's going to bring up our closing affirmation. He'll pop all of us up in our little windows. And there we are. So this has such power. And so I invite you all at home, please out loud speak this closing affirmation with me. Something wonderful is happening through me right now.
It is this thing called life.
Life is in my mind. Life is in my body. Life is in all that I do.
I am it. I embrace it, and I share it.
Just the way that it is, and just the way that it is becoming. Thank
you.
All right.
Join us on Zoom and have a blessed Thanksgiving.
See you there.
Yeah.
Yay!